Should I use this mic? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. That food was good, right? And now everybody is sleepy, right? Don't fall asleep. You can fall out of that chair and we might be in trouble. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming, and it's great to hear stories from people like Rashid and the amazing work he does. And I also spoke to a few of you during the lunchtime, and it's great to hear stories, because I am a story collector. Most of my research work has always focused on families and people with disabilities. So I'm going to talk about accessibility and what happens to children outside of the school setting. One of the reasons I'm very passionate about this subject is I was an administrator and a school teacher for a special school. We prepare our children. UN is pushing for inclusion. We include all the children in schools. But what happens to these kids once they finish their 10th or 12th grade? We don't think about it. We are very much focused on including them, accommodating them, bringing them to schools, and we forget that, something to think about. Are we creating pipelines to segregation, or are we creating pipelines to send these kids to school and to private schools? They also charge tuition or money, parents pay them, and are we preparing them to send these children back to the care of their parents? Unfortunately, it's happening a lot in many countries around the world. And my question to you is, how many of you in this room has a friend or family member who has a disability? Just raise your hand. A lot of people. Thank you. Thank you for. Now the question is, how many of your family member is attending college right now? Great. I have few of the hands going up. Excellent. But I saw that the number of hands that went up was more than half didn't raise your hands. The big question is, what are our children doing? I hear, bless you, I hear, help me with your name. Me? Yeah. Aisha said, doing nothing. Unfortunately, it happens with a lot of people. And why does that happen? Who decides who goes to college? I wear the suit, I wear the tie. I decide whether you can do education, or will you become a psychologist, or will you become an entrepreneur, and who makes that decision? Something for all of us to collectively think about. As me and Dr. Shore, have been talking with Dr. Nadira a lot about bringing a program into this community that allows children, individuals with abilities to come to this campus, individuals with disabilities to come pursue any degree they like, which leads to this slide, which all of you might be familiar with. I'm talking again, as Stephen mentioned, the type of disabilities. We have 13 different classification, at least in the United States. In Dubai, very similar here. So, like for example, other health impairment, we list a number of topics under other health impairments. For example, ADHD is covered under other health impairment. Epilepsy or seizures are covered. Diabetes is covered under other health impairment. Though these are the different types. And the big question, there are several college professors, faculty members here. My next question to those of you who are teaching in colleges or universities, how many of you have a student who has identified with any of these disabilities in your class? Few of you have raised their hands. Great. And how many of you have students who are on the spectrum, who are on autism spectrum disorder in your class? Anybody? 1, 2. How many of you have students in your, I'm talking about college classroom, by the way. In your college classroom, how many of you have somebody with an intellectual disability or Down syndrome? Right, thank you. Then the list goes on. And the question to ask among all of us is, do we have students with disabilities? We talk about diversity. We talk about bringing all different people to our campuses. and we bring these people, and are they receiving proper accommodations? In fact, based on research, attending college continues to be one of the biggest dreams for people with disabilities. When we prepare our typically developing children to prepare for SAT, prepare for college-based exams, let's prepare them to go into computer, engineering, medical doctor, all these professions. How often do we prepare our children or students with disabilities to consider college? Again, as I mentioned a few minutes back, again based on research, many of our students with disabilities substantially transition into segregated programs, vocational training programs that are segregated, assisted living programs or group homes that are segregated, and technical schools or full employment, or like Dr. Stephen Shore said a few minutes back, oh, you're here for Johnny who has Down syndrome, go to the basement or go to the end of the room, or they are up the hill in that special school. That's a common comment that you hear when it comes to the field of disability, especially after the age of high school. Half of the students with disabilities enrolling in colleges fail to graduate. It's okay, college is not for everybody. That I have to absolutely acknowledge the fact college is not for everyone. I struggled with learning. When I went to history lesson, when the geography teacher took the map and tell me where is this within the India map, they would ask me places, I would scratch my head. Map drove me nuts. I couldn't process information. When you show me a map, or if you give me the map and go around the campus and find these places, I have to ask 10 different people 10 times. I have to make sure I am going at the right space. I struggle with it even now. Did I struggle it with as a child? Yes. Did I get any accommodations? No. I got screamed, yelled at, or I repeated the same time several times. Did I learn how to use maps because I was told, okay, or you failed the exam? No. School was not a pleasant experience for me. Till high school, it was not a pleasant experience for me. My parents, I was even asked, why are you wasting your parents' money to pursue an education? You're not going to make it to college. So the big question here is, how are we treating our children, and do our children have proper transition plans in place before they graduate from high school? We have to acknowledge the fact that college is an entirely different ball game. I have to absolutely acknowledge the fact that college is not going to be for everybody. I want to highlight that thing, because you might ask some students, and no, I don't want to go to college. Gosh, I can't. I'm done with 12th grade. I want to do something else. I spoke to somebody. Help with your name. Darius mentioned his 12-year-old child has the interest of going to college, but there are less opportunities. Who decides that 12-year-old should get admission to college? Or are there opportunities for that 12-year-old who has a dream of becoming a professional, or who has a dream of pursuing a bachelor's or master's degree? Why are we denying these children admission? I am closely working with a kid in India right now. His name is Shafat. And I'm bringing this story here because he drives a three-wheeler bike all over. He has cerebral palsy. He crawls all around his house. His speech is severely affected. Bright, brilliant. He has 2 kids. Shamna and I've seen 2 children, perfectly okay. For the past over 8 months, he has been trying to get a license, and the doctor said, no, you cannot drive. The doctor didn't even take time to come see what he can do. Without that, no, you cannot drive. You can never get a license. That's the label. Are we doing that to our children? When it comes to the college, it's an opportunity to learn new subjects. The academic demands are very different. Students are getting an opportunity to leave home, Sometimes, depending upon in Dubai, there might be students who can leave their home in the morning, come back in the evening. But do we have dormitories in campuses like here where students can stay and come back? For example, on a rainy day, when you are walking into this building right here, I saw a ramp on the right side when I was walking to College of Education, and there were staircases at the main entrance. And I saw some buckets cleaning supplies on the ramp. We forget that if we clean the ramp, everybody can walk in and come in through that door, but we are very much focused on cleaning our steps. It applies to the education system too, where students should be given opportunities where there is limited parental involvement. It is important to acknowledge that if there are parents in the room, we are there for a limited period of time and we have to help them become independent. So are we doing that? Students are also getting an opportunity to develop time management and organization skills. All of you here, I think, have been to college. You went to undergraduate degree, you went to graduate school, and you are here right now. So think about your college experience. Things that you were excited about, frustrated about, you are anxious. And it was a journey. And why are we not offering that same opportunity to our children with disabilities who are finishing up high school? I'm repeating that same question so that it echoes in all of your brain even when you leave this conference. Why are we not giving opportunity to our children? Think about our high school and beyond high school when you are going to college. You get opposite to your opposite sex and you are like, wow, pretty guy, pretty girl, right? It happens. It happens in college too. Do we talk about it to our children? Are we providing them the opportunity to pursue again the college degree? Think about group dynamics, peer events, self-advocacy. It's a new level of independence. And who is deciding for our children that they don't belong in college? Because oftentimes, as I said, I did a study in the US within New York region and East Coast. I interviewed over 25 individuals with cerebral palsy specifically. I also interviewed people with intellectual disability, other disabilities. With these 25 individuals with cerebral palsy, except one, for everybody they were told, you cannot go to college. To one of my person I interviewed, he couldn't wipe his back because of his severe spasticity. So his guidance counselor said, oh, you cannot wipe your back, so you cannot go to college. Guess what that kid did? He went back home, he took his transition plan, tore it apart and said, nope, I am going to write my own transition plan and I'm going to go to college. And guess what? He has 2 master's degree now. He has 2 master's degree and that's who he is. But he was told he doesn't belong, college is not for him. I have students with other students with cerebral palsy who took 13 years to complete college. It was part of that study. I'm bringing this up. Who decides that we should complete a degree or master's degree program in 4 or 6 years? What happens if somebody completes it by taking 10 or 12 years? Why are we not making those accommodations? I can make 10 or 100 different slides of famous people who were told they don't belong. And these are few people I have put together here. And the people here, Bill, Nadia, they recently traveled to India. You have seen Temple Grandin, all these people. And including Dr. Shore, he was told by his math teacher that you don't belong here. You can never learn math. But as he said, even though the teacher made that comment, he teaches statistics at college level. So who are the ones who is making those decisions? Because again, I wear the suit, I wear the tie, I decide what you can do or what you cannot do. So it's 2024. We have to start thinking outside of our box and think about the advancement in technology. Think about all these things that's happening and how can we make our college classrooms more accessible. Which takes us to our, I know some of you are falling asleep. I know I want group discussion. I like people to talk. So I want 6 groups. So if I can have, instead of taking numbers, if one group can be your first group, second, third, fourth somewhere there, fifth and sixth there, 6 groups. There will be 6. I'm going to give 6 case studies for 1 case study each for each table. Again, 6 groups. If you can form small circles. I'm going to give you some case studies. Six groups, please. Yeah.
Do fall asleep.
Yeah. How many groups do you have? 1. You're one, number 1. Can you? 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're going to discuss.
Okay. 5, 6, excellent.
Okay, so
We have 1 case. And they're supposed I always
Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me, everybody. Excuse me, everyone. Real quick. You have 1 case study in each group, which is different. Every table has a different case study. I would like your group to discuss that case study in the group and come up with at least 4 or 5 strategies that will help that student succeed in your classroom, or 5 strategies that you will consider when you work with that student.
Take pictures and read it on your phone. Because photo on paper will teach you, right? Are you doing that?
She pointed out to you in front of all other students that there were 6 spelling mistakes, 2 incorrect names, and 2 of the new dates listed. The syllabus was lost. She also shared that the margin, spacing, and font sizes were not aligned. She stated that the file might have been copied and pasted from another document from the previous year. As we did. As a problem, we tried to interrupt Jen at the beginning to explain the reason why, but she continued and stopped only after pointing out all the mistakes in front of everyone else. What would be your initial responses to the student? That's the first question. Yeah. What are some strategies you will
I have till 3:30, right? I have till 3:30.
right and wrong.
Yeah, finding.
That's a real case study.
Yeah.
But I would hire her as my secretary.
Was it you?
No.
Case study. That's a real case study.
Frustrated with the situation. Well, we wouldn't get there. But as a professor, you're frustrated. Questions. What would be your initial response? What is the strategy we're working with the student? Yes.
Oh, it just happened last semester. What university?
Your initial response to the student. Initial response.
Asking them to stop.
Okay. Right. I mean, the thing. Are you trying?
I think like it's good that there's not just trying to set
Yeah.
I think the initial response of the teacher would be one kind of listening, respect, trying to understand instead of maybe trying to because it depends on students. Some students can talk about self-advocate in a respectful manner and some cannot. So I think for the teacher, the initial reaction would be to listen with kindness and to talk about what are the expectations, what they have, and then see how it matches up.
In fact, the student asked the professor, what is wrong with you? Try wearing a hat, it's really cool. The student asked the professor to do that. The professor got really pissed off.
And that's the thing, because now
You're a rock star. You're amazing.
Never the worksheet, and be like, they are listed on the worksheet. Let's go through the instructions together. And if you show them that I already gave you something, like this is great, but I'm also here to help you and support you.
To ease the anxiety.
Exactly.
You can expect at least 2 to 3 email from this kid every other day with questions for everything. So always anxious about, this thing? No. If there is a test coming up next week, you can expect an email every day. What do you do?
Also the constant validation, the need for validation.
You have 2 minutes left. You have 2 minutes left. 2:57. What's that?
The mic is on.
Oh. I forgot this. You have 1 minute left.
How to teach him to say that.
Because we teach this to our kids all our life.
For example, yes, excellent, excellent. And after the role play,
We have to remind them of something before about their CPDs. But when they finish, when we announce it.
Hey everyone.
I'm going to bring
I
them
hope.
tomorrow.
Okay, everyone. It's exciting to see all of you talking, and it's good discussion. I can't wait to hear from all of you. But there is an announcement.
Hi everyone. I think I need a bell next time. We teachers, when we get together, oh my God, there's no end to the conversation. All right, thank you. All right. Thank you. If you have not done this, if you have not scanned this and registered your name, please do, because you're going to get the official CPD certificate by next week, inshallah. So please do. It's a 3-hour CPD certificate. You all have definitely worked hard for it. So please make sure that you have registered your name here. Okay? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with the first group and take a look at the case study. This is case study 1. Can one member from group number 1 read that loud? Is that your case? Would you like to read it loud? You can you can read it.
Read it aloud. Case study number 1. On the first day of your class, a first-year student with autism raised her hand and told you that your syllabus contained 14 mistakes and need correction. She pointed out to you in front of all other students that there were 6 spelling mistakes, 2 incorrect dates, and 2 of the due dates listed in the syllabus were wrong. She also shared that the margins, spacing, and font size were not aligned. She stated that the file might have been copied and pasted from another document from the previous year. As a professor, you tried to interrupt Jane at the beginning to explain the reason, but she continued and stopped only after pointing out all the mistakes in front of everyone else in the class. That's interesting.
Okay.
That's very interesting.
Okay, what did you discuss? Go ahead.
I think, I'll give. Just take it. All right. Actually, it was a very interesting discussion at the table, and everybody contributed to the discussion. And first of all, we said we put ourselves in the shoes of the teacher himself. So we said first of all, we recognize the situation and deal with the real situation in a way that yes, exactly. Perhaps I made these mistakes. I was in a hurry, and I should have actually revised what I wrote before I handed it down to you. And I can do this in front of the class without being embarrassed. I should admit my mistakes, and this actually helps others actually to kind of to give them like the attitude of, you know, you can actually say whatever idea you have about my work as a teacher and about other people's work in the class as well. So this is number 1. Number 2 actually is, and this was an interesting point by one of my colleagues on the table, is actually how to make use of the situation so that I can teach the same kid, Jay, the social strategy of saying this to others. How to actually tell someone else that you have made a mistake in front of others, but in a social way. So making use of the situation so that I can teach him a new social skill. Number 3 is peer support. So actually I can, from a strength-based perspective, I would actually highlight the special talent or the special ability that this student has, which is actually the ability to read details and to have like a preference for reading details, so that actually everybody else in the class can, when he or she does any homework or any exercise, they can actually hand it to Jane actually to go through it and kind of revise their work. So this is like highlighting the strength of Jane in front of others. Number 4, I think, what was it? Number 4. I missed this. Yeah.
Oh, wow, you can use it as a teaching point.
Yes.
Maybe you're teaching English and
Yes.
the other point was it could be an English class and you could say, I was hoping that the way he noticed the mistakes, everyone else could also pay attention or be keen to these mistakes, because this is what we'll be learning throughout the semester, and we'll be looking at these kind of mistakes. Something like that.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Any other comments? In fact, this is the same student. One day when the student walked into my office, the student told me, oh, you have an email from Provost. And because I was facing this direction, and he would say, then I minimized that. Oh, okay, you don't have to look at my email. I minimized my email. Within 30 seconds or so, the same student said, oh, the spacing is wrong and the margin, there are some errors. I'm like, why is this kid looking at the document? When this student was assigned in a group to work with other students in the class, Jane would drive all other students crazy with font sizes, margin sizes, everything. And the big question here is, if you have Jane in your classroom, will you take it as a learning experience, or would you rather kick the student out of your classroom? In fact, all the 6 case studies, there are so many case studies. Because of the time, I shared only 6 case studies. And almost all these case studies, the professors couldn't work out something with the student, and student ended up dropping out of the class, going into a different major, changing, or moving out, which means the student did not have a pleasant experience with the college professors. Any other comments before we go into the next case study? Yes.
I would like to comment on this one, because since he's having autism ASD, it's better to go for a functional behavioral, what is the function behind, he's pointing out the mistakes and kind of things. So it could be like, he wanted an attention, because most of the autistic children, when they need attention, they become more, verbal, and they go for undesirable behaviors. So just find out the functions of his behavior, and the next step, yes, I'm ready to accept my mistakes. But still, if he's keep pointing out the other people who cannot tolerate this one, so that means we are not teaching him desirable way to behave in social situations. And making him to behave in social situations is also, a kind of strategy that we can advocate. So we can have a functional analysis of the behavior. What is the cause of this behavior? Whether it is an attention-seeking behavior, he needs attention. So that way you can give like some cue cards, or tell them something like that.
Very good point. But remember, it's a college classroom. It's no longer in school. There are no school teachers who is going to take that measure of teaching functional behavioral assessment, everything. That age has gone. He is at age probably 18, 19, 20, that year. He's a college professor teaching science or called business, MBA class. Are they going to do the functional behavioral assessment?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yes.
Absolutely not. He's a... Yes.
They could divert his case to the special education department.
This is where the discussion of Dr. Shore's discussion, if you remember, he talked about preparing the students to transition. That should happen at school level. And when it comes to college, we could have those as teaching moments, but professors are not going to take that teacher approach or that infancy step when it comes to helping your students in college classroom. But thank you, good point, yes.
I wonder if, I mean, obviously if these kind of interruptions are constantly disrupting the class, so using a strategy of saying, thank you for pointing that out, next time please jot it down right away and maybe hand it over to me end of class or in the middle of the class, just because obviously the student needs to point those things out. That needs to get out of his system. And that way both the class is not constantly interrupted and the students being able to get that need out. I don't know.
Good strategies, write it down, but some students are going to keep asking those questions too. But again, that's why when it comes to programs like this, if you are thinking about, any of you are thinking about college programs, if you have children going into college, if you are planning to have students in the classroom, it should be a team approach. Higher up from bottom up, bottom of even people who clean the restrooms, people who clean outside, they should be trained on how to work with people who are just different. So it should be a group approach. I'm looking at the time. Let's jump into the second case. Go ahead. Go ahead, you can read it loud.
One of your assignments in your course is to write a 5 to 10 page paper using at least 7 peer-reviewed research sources. As an educator, much time is spent in the first few days detailing how to choose a topic, conduct research, develop outlines, and handing in a rough draft a week before the final paper is due. Most of your students perform up to and a few exceed expectations. However, there's always one or two who just don't seem to manage their time efficiently and do poorly. This year, Edward, a student with autism, is included in your class. He came to meet you after the first week of classes and shared that he needs more time and needs more details for the assignment. He asked for word counts, margin space, font name with size, and recommended journal names to find articles. Edward asked repetitive questions to you every day after class about the paper. For example, one day he asked if he's required to go to library to find articles and if that can be done online. On another day, he told you that the librarian is old and not helpful to find articles online. As a professor, you are frustrated with the situation. What would be your initial responses to the student?
Sorry. Can I? Hello everyone. Actually, I had a similar situation in my class just a year ago or maybe 3 semesters ago when we were just doing the classes still online. I had one of my classes, one student with learning disabilities and the other students with ADHD. And yes, I knew that the assignment was even a little bit difficult for those who do not have disabilities at all. Then one of those students, she was really quiet and doesn't really like to disclose her disability or her special needs. And because I worked with her before, I knew that that assignment would be really hard for her. Well, versus the other one side, she was just, in the time of identifying her disability. She was not yet categorized as a student with disability. So what I did, I met with the student after the class and had a conversation with her. What is exactly she's struggling with, what she finds difficult for her, what she doesn't, what really works for her, what she doesn't work with her. And then I had a meeting with the other students who have learning disability and also asked the same questions. And then I redesigned the whole guidance for the assignment all over again with more details and how to write each paragraph, what to include under each title and how many paragraphs to write and what font style and all of that. And surprisingly, to be honest, most of the students in the class had to ask for the same guidance to follow. They found it very useful. What I did also, I started to peer the students with other students. Like for example, the students who have LD, I asked one of my top students to assist her with the assignment without anyone knowing about that as well. And the students with ADHD, I asked her really to get support from the Students Accessibility Support Center because she needed more help, to be honest, which I will really not have time. I couldn't really have much time to help her going through the assignment, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. But I used to follow up with her, and I asked them to use these references and gave them 2 or 3 weeks extra time. Thank you.
So you would do the same thing for equitable?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I have a comment about it. I have a friend that has a disability and he was with us in college, and he always, used to say for the professors, like, don't treat me differently, because sometimes you feel sorry, I can't walk, or I can't talk, or I can't listen, because I do have the advantage now of getting professors or teachers to cooperate with me. But in life, after I graduate, I sometimes will fail because no one will give me that advantage. So usually what the doctors used to do is like treat us the same, because we are talking about inclusion like from the beginning. And if the professor gave him extra time or credit, he would give all the students the extra time and credit.
Sorry, can I just respond to your comment? Because I am an academic myself, and I used to think that way when I was young. I want really to push myself to the maximum, but within the time you realize that you can't do what other people can do. You have a limitation in one way or another, but for those students, getting extra time really will bring them able to, for example, produce maybe something close to what the other students could do. I don't help my students who have a disability in a way that, to give them the support they don't need, but just to give them what they need. At the same time, you make them responsible also. Like some students, through my experience, they might come and ask for extra grades. I don't give them extra grades, never, ever. And I don't really negotiate the grades much with them. But what I do, I provide them with all the supports they need while they're doing the assignment or the assessment, or even explain everything to them before the exam, modify the exam, give them the support they need, and then I just, evaluate what they produce.
Thank you. I'm looking at the time. I wish we had more time, but key points. I want to pull from both points. Students with learning disability, for example, their brain is wired differently. They are going to take twice the time to process information. If I ask a simple question like, who is the President of the United States to you, and while for her, if she has learning disability, she's asking who means somebody is by the time you answered Joe Biden, and when I ask who is the Vice President of the United States, what is she going to say? What happens? The whole class laughs, right? The whole class laughs, and is she ever going to answer any of my questions? So when it comes to accommodations, we should be always mindful about, yes, allowing extra 30 minutes for a student with learning disability to take a test is letting that student succeed. That student is going to get an A in the class like everybody else. But should you be singling out that student in front of everybody? Probably not. So again, thank you for the great points. I'm moving fast because I think this session goes till 3:30, right? So let's jump into the third case study. What's that? Third case study. Oh, yes, good. You all have teacher's voice, so that's why I was not passing the mic around.
Chen is an international student from China who is on the autism spectrum. He is very energetic and social. He wants to become a teacher. From the first day of class, he asks several questions related to the course content. He asks questions loud and clear in front of all the other students. He would say things like, Professor A, you talk too fast, can you please slow down? Go back to the previous slide, can you change the design of the PowerPoint, to name a few. He asks for research evidence anytime the professor or fellow classmates make a statement based on experience. Recently, he was paired with 2 of his classmates to prepare a lesson plan. After a week, he shared in front of everyone that one of the group members broke up with her boyfriend and is very depressed. Hence, their group is behind on completing the assignment. On another occasion, when he asked a question in the middle of the lecture, you responded saying, "Let's discuss at the end." Chen replied that he doesn't have the time to meet after class, as the professor told 2 other students the same response earlier, which means there is weight involved. As a professor, you are frustrated.
Hi everyone, my name is Susan. So as a group, one of the recommendations for the initial response to the student is that as a professor, I should introduce a specific time to allow questions for the students. So tell them, for example, at the end of the lecture, we will be open for questions. Or they can write their questions and share them via email or a technological tool or platform that they can use, or even question cards or tickets. The student needs maybe a peer support that can help them answer questions during the lecture. Also, the professor has to have an individual support plan ready for him to know the profile of his student, to be aware of the case of the students he has in class, and being accessible in afterward lecture hours, like office hours, so students can have access to the professor for extra needs for comments or answers for his concerns.
Thank you. Any comments? Anything that stood out to you from this case study?
Yeah, we also thought about providing the material to the student ahead of time. So when the student has the material ahead of time, he will have time to go through the material, ask his questions, and name it. So he can email the teacher or the professor all the questions there.
And one thing also happened, I didn't put all the real names of any of these cases. In this case, the group member ended up quitting that class. She never came back to the class. The group member, yeah, she was really embarrassed. So she said, nope, I'm not coming back to the student. She retook that class during another semester. She was so frustrated, she even complained to the dean. So expect things like that in the classroom.
And I think this is where inclusion training is not just for staff and lecturers, it's also for the classroom.
Yeah.
So, and it should be done at the beginning of the semester to explain that there are learning differences, because it's not just about teaching our students who have learning differences to be able to be in academia and supporting them. It's about teaching everyone else that it's a world where some people may have different social cues, some people may have different communication styles, and how to deal with that and handle it in those situations.
Again, being in college, very good point, it becomes an issue of do you have the consent of the student to talk about disability in the classroom. And at school level, it's the parent consent that we always go to. At college, again, it's a different ball game. Is a student willing to talk about himself or herself in front of the public? Thank you.
But can I add one thing?
Sure.
I don't think it should only be in classrooms where students have learning difficulties. So it's not just if the classroom has a student who has autism or ADHD, I will do this class or not. It should be something that is part of the curriculum. All students will receive it, so that no student is on the spot of like, oh, we're doing this because I have autism.
Again, this goes back, I'm going to tie back it to Dr. Shore's discussion point. That's why we wanted this sessions back and forth. Think about self-efficacy, self-advocacy, all those things where students are prepared. Again, remember, college might not be for everybody. Is the student prepared? Is college is something for this student? Is the student going to belong in college? So it's an ongoing thing, but thank you for pointing out that. Let's jump to the case study 4. Who got case study 4?
Thank you. This is Saeed Salim from College of Education, Qatar University. So in cases study number 4, please. I'll give you 1 minute to read it, please.
That's not inclusive.
I don't know, people in the back, is it clear? The font size is clear? I should blink the thing so that people in the back cannot see.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we have a great discussion at the table here about several issues actually. We start from two different standpoints. One for teachers, one for students. As a teacher, my advice is first of all try to know and understand your audience. So from the very beginning as a teacher, I should know whom I'm talking to. Should understand all my students in the class. Also, I should be very clear about who decides what and why. Is it obligatory to have some kind of uniform at this level of education or not? And is it my responsibility to decide this or not? Also, as a teacher, I should think about changing my niche of teaching. It's a matter of classroom management. Do I have to accommodate all the students to my own understanding of my teaching style, or I can accommodate myself to the learner's need and expectations? So that's something important in classroom management approaches. From the student perspective, I could focus on issues as talked earlier by our colleague about self-awareness, self-advocacy, self-disclosure. So the student was very clear when he declared that it's not blah 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 as you have read in the text now. So also we should be very clear because it's a matter of acceptance of difference as teachers. So you notice that he's doing different or something which could be strange from your own perspective as a teacher. So, does it contradict with the teaching method, with the teaching approach, with understanding the curriculum? It doesn't. So, why don't you accept it? So you should think differently. You should give the learner the concept or the idea of I see you, I understand you, I know your needs, I'm here to help, I'm here to support, I'm not here to judge. That's it. If you have any points on opening.
Yeah. I would like to add one point. Because I remember from my previous university, there were the same students who were in the hat and hood. So it's usually they were very quiet, and some of them they had some mental issue like bipolar disorder or some depression. So we also should pay attention for that. So if we see this kind of students or something like this kind of behavior or interesting like that, we should look deeper and understand it's going to be like some mental issue or something personal.
Thank you. And Dr. Shore also gave you the example earlier, like he uses that hat as an accommodation for lights. And you're going to have work with students who have sensory issues, for example. Again, remember, college professors are not going to take time to go each and every person and going to investigate into the disability. There is a, for example, in the US, we have a disability support office or student access office. We have other programs outside of the college to support, outside the classrooms to support students with their needs. But again, is the college professor going to do this? Their concern was when they were going for internships to few of the local organizations, they had a dress code. They didn't want sweatpants or hoodies or hats, anybody wearing when they were going for internships. So the big question is, are college officials ready to find an internship for the student that allow that student to wear the hat or wear the hoodie or dress differently? Or when you walk into a bank, how many of you would be happy if somebody is wearing a hoodie and having the hat there? Is that the right kind of the major the student is in? There are different factors to think about too. Let's jump into the next case study. It's the fifth. You have 5?
We're 5.
Okay.
Go ahead if you can read it.
Okay. Reem is a hardworking student enrolled in a degree program in sciences. Reem has had disagreements with her professor after the first few weeks of classes. One of her concerns was the lab equipment. The lab equipment used are often not clean and have water spots on several of them. She also told her professor that a few of the glass equipment for lab experiments have faded numbers for measurement and need replacement. She complained to the dean that research conducted in the lab produced false results without maintaining standards.
According to her, the ceiling lights are incorrectly installed and do not evenly distribute lights. She also shared a picture with the dean where the professor was not using gloves during a lab experiment. Lastly, she shared her safety concerns of too many people being in the lab at the same time on some Wednesdays, making the environment loud and unfriendly. Reem's also making a special request for her to wear headphones and a mask while in the lab. Reem recently requested a floor plan for the lab to use during an emergency.
All right.
Okay, so first of all, we listen to Reem's complaints and concerns and validate them. Acknowledge the things that she's obviously feeling anxious about. As the professor, I should obviously be aware of any assessments or accommodations that she needs. I should be aware of this before the year starts. So I should already know she's had some sort of diagnosis, whether it's ASD or some sort of other OCDs, maybe even anything else. But I think the first thing we suggested as a strategy was to make accommodations, especially sensory accommodations, which are obviously sensitive to the light and to noise. So I think the headphones, is something that we should obviously consider allowed them to use. I think the cleanliness and those things are something that, again, we can accommodate. It's something we should probably be doing anyhow, and using gloves. So I think those are things we probably apologize to her about and try and make those accommodations for all the students. As I think group 4 mentioned, I think the peer support, training not only the peers but also the staff so that they can support her in the classroom and try to reduce her anxiety so that she's not overloaded sensory or mentally in any other way, such as the emergency exits is obviously something that she's concerned about. So I think all those are strategies. Is there anything else? Anything else?
No. Of course, and we provided faculty with special training, first of all, to know how to deal with student discrimination. Based on that, I think we'll follow up with the other strategy by training the peers, as someone has mentioned, training staff, and provide accessibility for students of discrimination on campus.
Thank you. The key is the faculty trained, faculty background. Or a simple thing, how many of you, when you walked out and were grabbing coffee or water from outside, how many of you can say your glass didn't have a water spot on it? Do we pay attention to details? Oftentimes we do not pay attention to these kind of details, but you have students who pay attention to that. Let's go to the last case, please.
Hi. Okay, so we're case study number 6. I will read the case study, but I just want to point out something regarding case study 1, 2, and 3. I realized that the professor was frustrated at the end of the case study, right? And I don't know if anyone mentioned that the professor, if he's aware of, or the teacher of a student who has autism, he should be very, very patient with that student. And he shouldn't be frustrated. So that triggered me. Every time I saw the word frustrated, I'm like, why? Why are you frustrated about it? I mean, you have to be patient when you know your students in the classroom. So that's what I wanted to say. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and read the case study. On the day of the exam, John, who has a learning disability, came to you and asked how to answer the first section of questions, which are listed under multiple choice. As a professor who designed the test, you told him that it's listed on the question sheet. He came back to you and asked you the same question again 2 more times.